Sukuna is going to regret holding back against Gojo. Gojo has already broken the limits of his insanity. This is something that has always been shaky in Jujutsu Kaisen up to this point. First with what happened to Toji after being assassinated, then against the disaster curses in which he looks insane, especially baiting Hanami in the process, and now against Sukuna's Shikigami Agito, also known as Totality. This is just the beginning of the insane lengths Gojo's willing to go, and Sukuna might end up regretting that, even though it might not be his fault. But what made Gojo snap was the unworthy opponent he added to the field. Every opponent that has been deemed to be inferior by Gojo ends up taking the biggest L. But what did Agito do to make Gojo that mad and give this phase again? Let's start with the fact that you have to leave a like for Hakuri Luck, subscribing if you're new, and now let us see. So what triggered Gojo in the first place? In his fight against Sukuna, we found out a lot of interesting things and information that I want to actually point out to you guys. So first of all, Sukuna, Maharaga and Agito ended up fighting Gojo in a 3v1. This means he needs to move and obliterate Maharaga and destroy Agito. But during this, the potential inclusion of Yuto Kotsu was very much possible. But Kashima was not letting this slide, saying that he is the next person in line and Yuta should just back off, while Maki is also thinking maybe she should go, so they have the Yuta Kotsu reassurance. So at this point, everyone believes that they should rightfully go. Even Yuji said Yuta should go to combat Sukuna and relieve some pressure off Gojo. But this is without a doubt the worst thing that could happen. It will dwindle the chances of Gojo winning in the 3 versus 1. There is multiple reasons why Gojo should never be interfered with, and the common reason is the fact that he fights better alone. It's been an objective fact throughout the series of Jujutsu Kaisen. Gojo alone is a different type of Gojo, and Kusagabe pointed it out as well. Sukuna and Gojo have different win conditions. That's not even mentioning the fact that Sukuna is not fighting at his full power and is confirmed to be holding back. Now upon reading this, you'd think holding back means that he's not going all out and is trying to preserve himself for the big battle to come against the other characters. But when it mentions that he holds back, all they're referring to is the fact that he's not able to fight his full power. So he hasn't used or exerted all the energy that he might have wanted to use if Gojo didn't have the infinity. To add to why Sukuna would be holding back, if Sukuna was to fight against Gojo and afterwards win, he needs to go against Yuta Kotsu, Hakuri, Maki, and the list goes on. Gojo on the other hand just needs to be Sukuna and it will all be over. That is the two fundamental difference between Gojo and Sukuna. So Gege Kotami probably added this to show a sense of Sukuna is much stronger than you guys believe, even though he looks like a fraud right now. And with the 10 shadows, you could tell that he's fighting at his full power within that capacity. But what I would say is that it doesn't really make sense saying that he's holding back to fight against the other people, because Sukuna has showed us in every way that he's not really holding back. So that part is a bit confusing. I'll understand it in terms of being limited, especially because he's fighting somebody like Gojo. Like, it's definitely not fair. But if you're talking about in the grand scheme of things, as he's saving his energy to be able to fight the rest, Sukuna could probably die before being able to fight them. So I don't think that's an excuse to use. I don't believe I agree with Mei in that situation. It undermines Gojo a lot more, and it shows that Gojo is not fighting the full power of Sukuna, and that's a bit of a problem. And even on top of that, they said that he has a move up his sleeve, especially if someone wants to come and intervene against Gojo. And we know there's so much things for Sukuna that we haven't seen thus far. So yeah, I do agree with that. This then leaves room for you to think, would Sukuna have been able to defeat Gojo if the Infinity is not active? And that's a different story for a different day. But Gojo would actually end up being weaker if he has his students come into the battle. And if you invert it, Sukuna will end up being stronger because he can use more moves accessible to him, as they do not have the infinity or anything to protect themselves. It's crazy when you think about after 5 domain expansions later, after brain fart later, and after being able to fight Gojo for this long, the students still wouldn't be able to beat Sukuna, which is pretty insane. Let's think about it. Now, this is the part where I call some of you guys out. It is confirmed that Yurume is alive. Some of you say she's dead. And secondly, Sukuna tanked the Hollow Purple. The amount of people that were on my head before saying Sukuna didn't tank it was overwhelming, and now I'm happy to say I told you so. I told you so that he did tank it, number 1, and at number 2, Yurume is obviously alive. They wouldn't just off-screen someone that strong. It just wouldn't make sense. But let's be honest, Kashima's spitting. The main reason we do not want them to interfere is because it's Gojo versus Sukuna. Let them enjoy their fight. It's literally a battle of the ages, and whoever would win comes out victorious. They're the best. It's not right to jump in, and I agree. This day and age of Jujutsu Sorcery, everyone wants to jump people. Back in the day, everyone was running the ones. Even Gojo versus Toji versus Geto, it was all ones. And you can see that nowadays they just want to fight together. But this fight really lets you know and reinforces the fact Gojo is him. Nobody can hold a candle to him at the moment. And this is the reason. While fighting against Mahoraga and Agito, the Totality Beast, you can see that he is absolutely decimating this Totality Beast. Like, it is able to have regeneration power because it's combined with the Great Serpent, Morning Tiger, and the Tranquil Deer. If you remember the Tranquil Deer being used against Yorozu, that is exactly what it is. It is able to regenerate almost anything, while being a combination with Niue. Gojo's thinking to himself, if he's able to get rid of this bootleg Mahoraga, then he would be taking one of Sukuna's regeneration options away, and that would be very useful, especially due to the fact that Sukuna's regeneration is also slowed down, similar to Gojo. So he calls him out for being a one-trick pony, and Sukuna hiding between Mahoraga and the shadows. You can tell that this is somebody who does not want to get caught whatsoever. So with the words of Sukuna, telling Mahoraga to tee up and basically be able to fight at your full potential, because right now he's looking weak, reminds Mahoraga, you have my powers now. Your strength is relative to me. And then straight away, you see a slash from Mahoraga, slicing off the arm of Gojo, and Gojo is stunned. Sukuna, happy, saying lovely in the process. This long range ability caught Gojo off guard because he did not expect anything like that to even be the case. And with the properties of Sukuna as well, you can tell this is probably why he was able to get this move out. And this causes them to gang up on Gojo. Gojo is getting hit from all angles, and Sukuna even whacks him because Mahoraga is hitting him as well. Then Agito from behind punches Gojo, but the infinity stops the punch from connecting, and Gojo, in the words, saying you just don't fit in with this crowd, pretty much saying that you better go, you are useless. And without even a waste of time, he punches Agito in the stomach, uses the maximum output of his blue, sending him away and completely eradicating this Shikigami into nothingness in Shinjuku. Now, this would be all fine and dandy and shows why Gojo, if he finds that you are inferior to him, just goes all out crazy. But that's not all. We know that Gojo is about to use a hollow purple to be able to defeat Mahoraga and Sukuna. So the climax of the battle is here. And Sukuna and Gojo have definitely been going back and forth through all this time. I don't believe Sukuna will be able to fight off the other students by the end of this fight. Don't forget, Gojo said that he has a move that he's not used yet, not used before. And this move is going to obliterate Mahoraga as he's not adapted to it at all. Or it could be from the foreshadowed hollow purple. But then that makes you sit back and think, how on earth is Gojo going to use the move of the unlimited hollow technique that he says he's been hiding? Unless it's a maximum technique of his purple hollow, which would then be understandable and it would make sense. If that's not the case, I'm not sure how Gojo is going to get around this one. But for Sukuna's own sake, if he's holding back against Gojo at this moment, he is in for a rude awakening. And you'll realize that them two are more equal than he thinks. That would be the conclusion of the video. If you haven't already, check these videos on the screen right now. It would be much appreciated. And as I say to the new and old people that come and visit my channel, Njana.